Recording. All right, back from break. It was very quick, thank God, because my phone was truly starting to die. Well, Andy, you were trying to tell us a story. I'm
Oh, wait,
sorry.
wait. Yeah, so UFC has been trying to book this match between two lightweights, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson, who Khabib is the current lightweight champion. Tony Ferguson was basically number one contender for so long. Basically, the fight, they have tried to book this fight, I think, at least 5 or 6 times under different. And I think this fight goes back as far as maybe 2014 or 2015 with trying to get booked. Maybe 2016, but the main thing is that this fight has been they've been trying to book this fight, but someone either wind up getting injured. One point Khabib, who's a Muslim, had they booked the fight during Ramadan, and Khabib's like, I'm not fighting during Ramadan, because he was fasting as well. Yeah, and then they tried to book it this year. Then the fucking pandemic happened, so like it's like this fight between this match between Barnett and Moxley is becoming just like a cursed match. I'm worried that every time that they try to book it, and trust me, for the next Bloodsport show, they're gonna try to book it. Something is gonna come up. I'm worried that this is just a forever cursed match because it's a match that everybody wants to see, and we just can't have good things in life.
Oh man. Every single time that it seems like these two are going to get on, I agree. And this is absolutely horrible. That either Mox gets injured or just bad circumstances. Yeah. No, man. I think, and this is coming from somebody that loves Barnett and Mox respectively, but I think at this point, maybe they should like let this thing simmer down a bit.
Ah.
Come back to it maybe like in a year or two's time.
I want to see this match. I think this is a this you've got to be hungry for this match. Maybe maybe it'll be like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Maybe it will be like the biggest thing for Bloodsport and GCW when it finally happens. Maybe it just maybe it could be that that the cancellations are a blessing in disguise because it'll just make people hungrier for more. And it'll get more buzz. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is this match is cursed, never happens.
Mm-hmm. Like, don't get me wrong. I actually want that match to happen very, very badly. I was hoping that it was going to happen last year. I thought it was going to happen in December.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
seriously thought it was going to happen in December because it sounded like that they were going to get Barnett and Mox and the whole entire GCW Bloodsport crew for another show in Atlantic City in December. I wish that actually did happen then.
I do think though that even though the Atlantic City show is a great show, I think that's a show a match you gotta say for WrestleMania. I feel like that's a WrestleMania week show, match. I mean, so I mean, I give them props for trying to do it during the show you went to. And trust me, if I went to that, if I wasn't working that day, I would have bought a ticket to that show, and regardless of Moxley Barnett, I would have come to that show. But the problem is, I feel like that match is too big for that's not
A
on a
house
WrestleMania
show,
week. Yeah,
basic house show.
yeah, basic house show. Yeah. So I feel like if they try this match again, don't try to book it again this year. Wait until WrestleMania. Oh, well, here's the other thing as well. With Moxley being champion now for AEW, you may not be able to even book him because then Moxley can't lose a match, and I don't know if Barnett's gonna take a loss unless they do a draw or something. So now the match finish would be in jeopardy. I think.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think. I know that we're talking about the whole entire Bloodsport series. I believe that they actually had multiple champions on each show, and none of them came out with like the actual legit belts, and it was all pride anyway. So, say that Mox was AEW champion at that point in time, that legit happens. It's not in WWE. I mean AEW. Excuse me. It's not in AEW. That's in GCW. That's a whole different other world.
But
So Mox losing to Barnett, say hypothetically, it wouldn't hurt him as far as being in AEW is concerned because what Mox does in AEW isn't completely legit what he does in other places.
I
He's
feel like
sort of
though that
more free range chicken, where in New Japan in comparison to AEW. But hey, it is what it is.
I feel like though that AEW, Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, all the bookers, whoever, they want their championship to mean something, so they don't want their champion to lose outside their promotion. So
Mhm.
I fear that if I don't know if Moxley was supposed to lose at all during those matches, when they were booking trying to book the GCW Bloodsport match. But if he the only thing that happens, the only outcome, with the only two outcomes, if he's AEW champion, and he has the Bloodsport match, is that he either wins or it's a draw. Because I can't see AEW letting their champion lose outside their promotion.
Mm.
Even Gabe used to hate it when I'm trying to remember who it was. John Walter. When John Walter was Ring of Honor champion, he had a squash match on WWE television, and he obviously John Walter lost because he was getting squashed. Gabe supposedly was furious that his champion took that did the job, and Walter lost the belt, I believe, shortly after in Ring of Honor after that, and I don't think he ever worked for them ever again.
Wait a minute, Walter. You mean Big Van, Walter?
John Walter he was
Oh,
a
John Walters.
yeah.
Okay. John Walters, not a Van Walter. Okay, because I'm thinking for a second of Van Walter. I was about to say, well, Walter, he's in WWE now.
Oh, yeah. No, the name is John Walters. He also goes by the name H.R. Brewer. I've heard.
Yeah. I actually heard the name, and it snapped me out of it for a second. Oh man. Let's see what else is in this. Hmm. All right. So if you actually had to name your most favorite match in the entire Bloodsport, what would you have said?
Hmm. Holy shit! Favorite match. Favorite match. I'm going to probably. It might be an easy cop out answer. Nothing. Nothing. Probably, most likely, also everybody else's or a lot of people's. But I'm gonna probably have to say Minoru Suzuki versus Josh Barnett from
Hmm.
Bloodsport, the first Josh Barnett Bloodsport show.
Yeah, I can respect that. I can respect that. Why do you think so, Andy?
Beg your pardon, sorry.
Why?
Oh, why? I think it's a hard. First of all, I gotta also say I had a live bias because I was at that show, but it was just a hard hitting, just brutal, brutal match. I like the grappling in it, the submissions. I like the slap fest. It was such an exciting, just very not emotional, but it had a big match feel to it. It felt real. It it felt those the slaps that they're giving each other were some of the most brutal, disgusting slaps I've seen. I would say disgusting in a positive way. It was just such a joy to watch this match uh, and just be there and just feed off the energy of the two. Um, also adding the 5 more minutes, which supposedly that was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to go to a draw, but the five more minutes thing was improvised on the fly, and so yeah, it was just like a great display. That's a match I can show a non wrestling fan, and I'm pretty sure they would enjoy it. Um, yeah, just great work by both of them. Josh Barnett's a really underrated pro wrestler. Um, yeah, I don't think he gets a lot of love as a pro wrestler. But yeah, it was just so good to watch, so amazing.
Oh man. I remember sitting in second row, as I said, and not only even just watching the reaction of the crowd, but sitting by the actual entranceway, meaning where the wrestlers. I could see the notorious 187 homicide standing alongside Danny DeMonto, who's one half of the owners to GCW. And they looked like they were about to just straight up cry tears of joy because Suzuki and Barnett, they were just tearing it up. Especially Homicide, who's a big person regarding the Japanese wrestlers. Like, there's been many times where I remember sitting down with Homicide just talking about Minoru Suzuki and the impact that he's had on his career and everything. To see my old friend standing at the gateway watching one of his idols tear it up with a guy who, in his own right, is a legend, that sticks with me forever more than anything else. Take away the championship matches that I've seen, take away the tag matches and everything else. That match in itself just told a story that WWE wished they could tell with somebody like an Undertaker. They wish they could tell that story with Undertaker, but Undertaker, he's been through so much that it shows. Whereas Suzuki and Barnett, you cannot tell that these guys legit have been through wars.
Mm.
You would swear, and I thought, and I'm taking off my glasses right now.
Mhm.
I'm still in awe that Minoru Suzuki is practically in Undertaker's age range, like legit early 50s to mid 50s. And yet Suzuki, who's been known to do kind of hardcore style fights and everything, he is in way better condition than Undertaker is altogether. And
I
I say this, God bless.
Mm-hmm. I think also what works about I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of draws. I think that draws is cheating a lot of time. To me, draws are like DQs, countouts, unless you plan to do very few draws in history. I think actually work. The most recent one probably be the Kenny Omega Okada draw from Dominion 2017, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
That worked because the match was great, but also because it was leading up to something eventually. So in hindsight, it worked, and in the moment, it worked. But for draws, it's kind of like I feel like it's cheating, especially in the main event. But when this thing went to a draw, the story behind this match is that these two were so tough. They knew each other. By the way, that's the other thing as well. There's a backstory because Barnett trained with Suzuki when he was in Japan. I believe they're both students from the Billy Robinson, Carl Gotch. I mean, listen,
Yeah, baby.
his finisher is the Gotch Power Driver. So yeah, there was a backstory. It was kind of like student teacher or student or something. But there was a backstory behind this as well. And both fight. That's the thing is that that I also like because if you knew the history between these two and just their lineage, I think you can enjoy the match a lot more as well based on that because just those little things like that make a match so much more enjoyable if you know about it. The match is great in a vacuum if you don't know anything about that, I believe, but just knowing the history between these two, where they came from, how they trained, I think that made the match just so much more special.
Oh man. Uh, as the match was starting to unwind and we're getting ready to transition to a different aspect of life, uh, the match with Suzuki and Barnett. Did you hear not Barnett, Suzuki say something along the lines of, "I'm a man, you're a man. Let's do this like men."
Yes, I remember that. I remember that. I'm trying to. Yeah, it was something along those lines, but it was. I'm trying. He said something like "Let's do" like something like that. I know the audience was very loud during this match, so it was very hard. I'm only like 20 feet away from them, but it was still hard to hear shit that was going on, like shit like that. But yeah, I seem to vaguely recall them of Suzuki saying something like that. But
Oh
yeah,
man. And when Suzuki actually said that, I'm losing my junk. I think everybody around me is losing their junk because we're actually thinking that this is going to go practically overtime or even more. And
oh,
I'm,
I think that's also another thing that's got to be pointed out is that also the problem with a lot of draws, if you look historically at wrestling draws from the 80s and 90s, actually from any era, you'll notice that the matches are so slow. Look at a lot of Ring of Honor draws that happened during the Gabe era. A lot of those matches are like the first 20 minutes are headlocks. It's like it's mostly like feeling out, and this match didn't feel like it was going to a draw as well. So that's the
mm,
problem is that if you, I can tell usually within 5 minutes of a match if it's going to a draw. That match I could not tell was going to a draw, and I think
you,
that's also what made it another aspect that made it exciting as well. Is because if you didn't know it was a draw, you didn't think that it was gonna, you had no idea it was going to go that route.
I had no clue. I thought Suzuki had Barnett's number, and or vice versa. It was so good. But then it went to the draw, and I said, you know what? It's well worth it because both guys came with the heat. You couldn't get any stronger than that. So I left that day feeling very, very satisfied. And I returned to my room where my fiance was. I told her how it was and showed it to her, and she kind of wished that she went along with me, but it is what it is. All
Yeah,
right, kids. Well, I'm sorry, Andy. You want to finish your
no, I
thought?
was just saying, I was just agreeing with you. I was absolutely agreeing with you. Yeah, anybody, please check out that match, please. Free on YouTube, GCW's YouTube channel. Go ahead and watch it. It's only you'll enjoy, it'll be some of the best 20 minutes of your time.
Uh-huh. From start to finish, you will probably be in awe, especially when Suzuki says, "We are men, we are gonna finish this like men." Well, wait a minute, wait a minute. Now I remember. I remember now. He spoke twice. Okay, once during the match, he said, "I'm a man, you're a boy." And I was
That was
just dying laughing. I was dying laughing at that point. The match, once it was done, we're both men.
that was it. Yes, yes.
That was it. All right. So I think you kind of touched upon your podcast a little bit, but like, how did you come up with the actual name?
Well, many one of the things I like is if a podcast has a good acronym. So like We Are Rizin is war, or if you want to include the podcast, it's still Warp. I like podcasts that that have you can remember you could say like oh you did you listen to the War podcast or the Warp podcast something like that. But the name itself, so at the beginning of every Rizin show, when they introduce the fighters, they do this whole grand entrance for all the fighters, and then Lenny Hart, the announcer. She was a famous. She's known as also Crazy Pride Lady, who does like those big. You probably seen the videos, right? Or of like some lady who's like screaming her head. Actually, she used to do she used to do the announcing for New Japan.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I always wondered what happened to her. She's
Oh yeah, she's
doing announcing for Rice?
Yeah, first she started in Pride. Well, here's the funny thing. First, she wasn't the announcer for the first two Prides. I think it was after Pride. I don't even remember. I'm not even gonna guess. But she started in Pride, then made her way to other promotions in Japan because she was in Japan. She's actually She's a voice actress in Japan. Has voiced. She was in the Yakuza games. Um, Other things as well. She's done anime and all that stuff. Um, and yeah, she's then made her way to New Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 9, I think it was, and maybe Wrestle Kingdom 8. I think those are the only shows.
Yeah.
I think
And
those are the
she
only.
did like a few shows after that. I
Oh,
remember this is circa 2014ish. I
yeah,
started watching New Japan as its own thing after years of watching them collab with the likes of Ring of Honor, Impact, and WCW. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, the one thing that stood out, there was a female announcer.
yeah.
And for years, I wondered who she was. Thank you for answering that question. And what's her name again?
No, Lenny Hart. It's Lenny Lenne Hart,
Oh,
Hardt. And I'll just plug. We did an interview with her. She actually does not grant a lot of interviews. I have no idea why she responded to our interview request, but she did. It's one of our most popular, most listened to interviews. And actually one of the best interviews I think we've done.
ooh,
For somebody connected to that we've ever interviewed. As for the name, though, so yeah, so before every show, after they do the introductions, she goes, "We are rising," and then the fireworks go off. And I was like, you know what? I think that's a great name for a podcast, especially because we'll be covering Ryzen. In hindsight, though, I kind of regret it calling it that because we have covered other things such as Bloodsport, Japanese pro wrestling, smaller Japanese promotions, Japanese kickboxing. So initially, when we did it, the only promotion that you could really watch legally was Ryzen. So we thought that would be the only thing we would be covering. I didn't think we'd be branching off into Deep, which is a smaller a smaller promotion in Japan, or Pancrase, or Shuto, or Rise, which is a Japanese kickboxing promotion, or even Bloodsport. So we just never thought we would ever cover other things because it was impossible to find other things unless you had a VPN and or like had like there's that like device that you can like intercept Japanese channels with. I know that David McDonald from the New Japan Purocast has it. Um, so yeah, we just thought we'd be covering Ryzen. In hindsight, though, I wish we called ourselves something like, I don't know, the JMMA podcast, or just something that makes us not think that makes us not just seem like, oh, we only cover Ryzen, because I feel like a lot of people won't tune in because they either don't like Ryzen. There actually are people who do not like Ryzen because they think they do too many freak show fights. They do too many fights that are one sided. So we just cover just the J Kagutogi, which is martial arts in Japanese. We cover the whole entire Kagutogi spear as of now. So, but listen, also the other thing also that I hope that people realize is that we're not connected with the actual Ryzen promotion. So when I say we are Ryzen, it's just more like it's just we just took that quote and decided to put podcast at the end. There was actually no like big intellectual thinking behind it, and it just so happened to be a good acronym: WAR, WAR, or WARP, WARP. So that's the story behind the title of the show.
oh man. I remember when you and Christian, or I think it was more so you were approaching me about coming on your show, and I actually heard the name, and I thought, "Ooh, this is gonna be fun." And it wound up being fun. I believe it was maybe 3+ hours, but we were having so much fun just talking about mainly Bloodsport and our hopes for the future for that thing. And now here we are, nearly a year later, and man, to say that things have changed, that's an understatement, grossly. Oh man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is that since MMA and shoot fighting are very much connected, they are without promotions like UWFI, which was a Japanese shoot promotion that had Nobuhiko Takada, Gary Albright, a bunch of other people who actually did also go into MMA. Without pro wrestling, the really and obviously the most famous mixed fight of all time, Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali, there would be no MMA. So pro wrestling and MMA are very much distant cousins, despite what a lot of people say. MMA fans, I know, like to poo-poo wrestling, that they're not real athletes, whatever. I've heard all that. And then pro wrestling fans say, "Oh, MMA is boring. It's just two guys or girls lying on top of each other," which, yes, that's not what it is. But it's they are distant cousins, and I do wish that the two respective fan bases and also workers, fighters, combatants, whatever you want to call them, would be more respectful of each other because without pro wrestling, we wouldn't have MMA. Without MMA, we wouldn't have things like Bloodsport or that promotion that's in Las Vegas that does the work shoots as well. I think that was Killer Cross's promotion. I think. I don't know if it's still existing. Or people like Zack Sabre Jr. or Matt Riddle, or just people like that who are just different in the pro wrestling. I wish there would be a lot more harmony between the two because I feel like there isn't.
Oh man. And that is pretty much me actually agreeing with you. I agree wholeheartedly that we are all basically cousins in this crazy circumference that we call combat sports. May we actually have grown up with boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, or any combination of the three. Why can't people just get along? I do not understand. It's almost kind of like, how can I compare this? It's kind of like people that turn it all over the wrestling bit, but yet they'll watch stuff like, say, Marvel or DC movies, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like that pro wrestling stuff. It's fake." But they'll go geeking out like there's no tomorrow for the comic book stuff because that feels more appealingly real to them. And I'm saying in my mind, you're a bunch of idiots. You just criticize one thing for being fake, but you love something that's maybe even more fake in more ways than one. But it goes back to that whole entire have respect for a person or person's preference. But I don't think that maybe we ever will because people want to be who they want to be. It's like trying to get people to agree to not disagree about politics and whatnot. Me, I'm just standing on my little soapbox, just saying, let's just get along. We're all human beings. That's
Yeah,
the bottom line, folks. And I always say that the main goal is to love each other, to provide for each other, make sure that we're all okay. Because in the end, we're practically all the same style of species. Bottom line. But hey, if people want to turn the world to shit for differences, that's all on them. That's all on them. All right. So we've already touched upon the wrestling, the non. Wait a minute. The actual podcasting bit. Hmm. Okay. After we were done recording Rewar Rizin for Bloodsport practically 3, you and we met in October at New York Comic Con. I believe I just got out of either. Yeah, man, I'm trying to remember. I know I was definitely. I believe I got out of Amy Jo Johnson from Power Rangers panel. And you and we met up with a pal of yours. We all went to this comic book for wrestling stories. I was kind of taking that Mick Foley, Gangrel, and some other wrestler, I think, and like 2 to 3 writers, they were just talking about writing stories. I said, this is pretty good. And you and and your friend, we were mainly talking during that thing. But we
Mm.
were having fun listening to the stories as well. So, what did you think of that moment in time?
When we met or the panel?
Uh, yeah, let's go with all of it. What did you think?
I thought it was cool, the meeting you because I think what happened. There was again we met on social media, probably something regard wrestling. Yeah, it was wrestling related, Bloodsport related. So and so I saw that you were going to be going to Comic Con, and then I was like, oh hey, I'm going to go to Comic Con. Let's meet up, and yeah, that's it's always cool to meet up with a guest. I've met up with. I'm trying to think of who else I've met up with. I met up with Joseph Matos, who's been a guest and did our Fire Pro Wrestling review with us. He's also done a few of the preview shows of us for the Rising shows. Um, but yeah, you are one of two who I've met in person with the show. So it's always cool to meet up with another wrestling fan, another MMA fan, combat sports, pro wrestling, whatever the fuck you want to call this, all this stuff in person. Um, and then yeah, I'll tell you the truth. I don't remember that much about that panel. I think there was something else going on in the wrestling world that I was like distracted by, that I was like talking with you about. That
Yeah,
was
I think that we were actually talking about blood sport related stuff.
oh
And
yes, yes.
yeah, I think we were talking blood sport related stuff.
And yeah, that was that panel was like it was like I know Mick Foley was on there, wasn't Gangrel there as well, and then it was about like wrestling comics or something, and I only went to it because well, I mean like I think it just happened to like coincide with like we were both gonna go to it, and so that's why like you know we went. I think I was even late for it. I don't even remember if I even got there early because I just was. It was
I
more.
think you okay, if my memory serves me right, yeah, we did agree to go to together.
Yeah.
But I think you said earlier that day that you actually had a little bit of work and you were gonna be there a little bit late, but you made it in time just as the doors was getting ready to close. So
Oh
you got
yes.
in.
Yes. Now I remember. Okay. So yeah. So it's that. Yeah. So I was trying to remember what I was writing, but I think I was probably writing up one of the press panel things I was attending beforehand, and then yeah, I had to run all the way down because the press room was on the opposite side of where that panel was because the press room is kind of like in the middle of the Javits Center because those escalators go up, and then there's that room. It didn't used to be a press. It didn't used to be a room where they had panels. But it actually they split it in half. It became half press and half extra room for panels. And then I had to run down, get my laptop, gather up all my shit. Oh, I don't remember if Brendan he was my friend who I was with at Comic Con. At if he I had to meet him up with him first, or no, yeah, no, we met up right outside, and then we bolted to the panel to that panel.
Yes, we did. And we were fortunate that we actually had seats in the back because everybody in the mama was really trying to hump the front. And I said to you, okay, we got these seats back here. Let's just count our blessings and just go at it from there.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you the truth. You can't ask me to I can't remember anything from that panel because I was, as soon as they started talking about comic books, which I'm not really into, and then like wrestlers being in comic books, I just was like, ugh, my mind was like, was like drifting off, and that's why I was like talking to you about Bloodsport and other things.
Oh yes, and plus you look like you were about to straight up just go to sleep. I remember you actually saying before we left that you were probably just gonna head on home after the panel was done because you've been there almost all day long, and you would that plus you actually had work too. So I
Oh
said,
yeah, because when I go to Comic Con, I have to get there early, so they let the press people in before everybody else. So Comic Con was it? It opens like 9 or 10 or whatever. I'm getting there like 8:30. I'm exhausted because I gotta take the subway in. Even from the 7 train, the last stop on the 7 train from Hudson Yards, it's still a bit of a walk. I'm carrying all my equipment, so it's like I'm already sweaty and exhausted by the time I get in. And then, oh yeah, and as the day goes on, you're doing so much walking, you all that stuff. There's barely any place to sit down, so I'm just exhausted. And the panel was probably like what was it like a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock panel, something like that.
yeah,
I
it was roughly 5 p.m.
Yeah, 5 p.m. I'm just dead by then. I just kind of want to go home, rest, and then come back the next day or whatever. Just or if it's a month Sunday going to Monday, just go to sleep.
If my memory serves me right, let me see. That panel was Thursday, and then you said that you were not gonna really be around on Friday because I think you had like legit work, not press work, and you said you were probably gonna show up on Saturday.
Yes.
If my
I usually
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Did you actually make it that Saturday?
I think I was probably late. Because usually Thursdays and Fridays are the biggest days that we cover stuff because that's when most of the big press junkets panels happen on Thursdays and Fridays.
Uh-huh.
Saturdays Saturdays are like just it's like kind of like the day that everybody just wants to enjoy Comic Con, even the people who are going there for work and all that stuff. So there's usually not a lot for me to cover on a Saturday, and then Sundays is like chillest day because everybody the things that nobody wants to cover or the things that people want or that like people don't give a shit about are the Sundays. Actually, no, actually this Sunday was actually different because I got invited to that weathering with you preview screening that they had on the last day. But that was like the one thing that they had on that Sunday. Like if they didn't have that screening, I probably wouldn't have gone on Sunday just because Sundays there's nothing to do at Comic Con. Really, there's really nothing that there's really nothing goes on Sunday. If you want to buy something, try to like haggle it down for like half price or whatever. That's Sundays are the best days, but for the most part, yeah, Sundays I usually tend to skip.
I hear you. Man, the Sundays that I'm thinking about it were kind of the really wind down stuff. But some of the panels on those days, meaning Sundays, they were the most talked about stuff. Like I remember my very first con, which was practically 3 years ago, and the very last day, the biggest panel on that day was for Batman the Animated Series.
This is last year?
This was 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. I was okay. I'm trying to.
This was
Okay.
3 years ago. That the cast of Batman the Animated Series and some of the actual production heads, like Bruce Timm, they were all there. for roughly an hour. And this is, I gotta believe, the last panel for that year. And I'm there sitting front row, and it was deafening almost. Like people were losing their minds, especially when Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, did the line, I am I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. You could almost feel the vibration hit wall to wall when he hit that line. And I'm just almost crying tears of joy because I'm practically in there witnessing it. But to your point, yeah, pretty much the actual walking around bit was like, okay, let's get to the good points now. And then when you get in, then you forget it was a Sunday. I thought it was almost Thursday right there and then, but then I'm reminding myself, yeah, it's over. It's over. But that's okay. I'm here. Oh,
Also, the other thing is that since this Comic Con has so many people, you're just also just absorbing all that heat as well. And I'm one of those people who, if it's really hot, I get more exhausted. I'm like tired, exhausted. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're just like dead. You're like you can't even just walk on your own 2 feet. You gotta like crawl to get out of the Javits Center.
dude, it was so bad that I actually learned how to actually take a seating chair and walk with it all where I was going. Oh my god. I I actually attended Comic Con for the first time in 2017, and I felt like I was straight up gonna faint because it was so hot. And then I'm thinking on the road to 2018, I'm learning from this. I'm gonna bring my own chair. And people started kissing my rear for 2 years straight after that. They're like, dude, you are smart. You brought a chair. Why didn't we think of that? And I said, I don't know. I just learned from experience. That's what I did. But then I realized, and this is like a smidge before the actual, no, no, no. This is my actual hiatus from social media. I said, okay. I see what's going on. It's not just the heat. For me, I learned a little bit about myself that I almost had panic attacks at points because of like how big the place was and all those people. Oh man.
Question I
And
have for you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I actually had panic attacks almost on and off. Now that I'm thinking about my whole entire history at Comic Con. Not that I didn't want to be there, but oh my God, like the overwhelming feeling at points in time. I swear, like last year, and this is me being now aware that something was going on with me. I did not truly know heavy that I had panic attacks at points until, again, I was off on social media. I was off that for a while. And then when I realized it, I said, oh shit. Seriously, I went through my own set of panic attacks. Not that I didn't care for people, but man, I didn't know how to legit cope with being on my own completely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Now, if Comic Con was to happen this year, I don't know if it will.
Well, that was going to
But
be my question to you. Do you think New York Comic Con, when does it happen? October? We saw San Diego Comic Con get canceled for the first time ever since it started. And a bunch of other cons are like doing virtual. comic things. I have no idea, but like doing them like online. Do you think there may be enough time to do not San Diego, New York Comic Con?
Okay, they have usually around this time of year, the tickets for Comic Con would have been sold because of the coronavirus, ladies and gentlemen. As Andy stated, San Diego Comic Con, which is the Cali version of New York Comic Con, had to go under for a bit. And to Andy's credit, he actually did state that some things have gone virtual. San Diego Comic Con, Andy, from what I understand, they're actually trying to make it happen, but they're going to do it by way of virtual. As far as New York is concerned, okay, I've been thinking about this. I made my peace with it. I've told a dear supporter of this show and the brother figure that if New York Comic Con was to happen, I can respect that. But if it doesn't, that's fine too. I don't think I'm attending this year because my head's in a different direction at this point. Not saying that I won't ever return to Comic Con. I'm definitely am now that I'm in a better physical shape and mental condition. But my heart is now set on trying to move out of where I live. And sad to say, the job that I work for, God bless them, and I do appreciate the money that's coming in. But some things I have to really take into consideration. What's more important? As far as the actual appearance of Comic Con, it's 50-50. If I had to take more of a chance and would make a suggestion, I would say that maybe they should wait until, and you could call me crazy, maybe sometime in December. So that way people can feel a little bit more closer to Christmas and it would be a little bit more of a gift for surviving this epidemic, I would say.
Ah, that sounds interesting. I'll tell you this, I think they're still selling tickets. It hasn't officially been canceled or postponed. They are still selling tickets to the show, and I know I put my press credentials in, and they're accepting press credentials still. So they're still acting as if they're going to go on. Reed Pop still thinks that they're going on at this point until, I guess until they hear otherwise.
Oh man. Now, here's the crazy thing about living in this crazy hodgepodge time that we're living in. Like, how they gonna truly pull that shit off? In my point of view, how they're gonna truly pull it off if they're having to try to respect this whole entire year of 6 feet apart and making sure that people are not all over each other and da 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 da. I don't know how they're gonna pull that off. If they do it, God
Well,
bless them because
I'm gonna,
that's a very tough situation to try and maneuver around.
the
Because
answer
you,
is that it
because you
can't.
and I, we've testified about how big the Jacob Javits is, and how people basically nut hug each other from start to finish, especially when it's opening day. Especially when it's opening day. Oh my God. People are practically on lines from the jump. Some people are waiting for a line to stage D, which is the main stage, or the one that's like right next to it, or after that, or even just to get on the show floor. Like, how they gonna keep those people apart for 6 feet apiece? I don't know how that's gonna happen. I really don't. And same thing with what's this other con that usually happens circa November now?
Oh,
Uh,
uh, yes.
anime New York City. I really wonder, and sorry, folks, not sorry, how they're gonna maintain this whole entire thing of social distancing if these events truly do go on, which I think they will. I think they will. How do you think they're gonna do it, Andy?
Oh, simple. You can't. It's simple. You can't have if they want to run the Javits Center maybe at like third or half capacity. So how many people do they get for Comic Con every year? Like was it 8,000, 9,000, 10,000? If you want to just have 5,000 people or a third of that, I don't know math, so whatever that number is. Then I think that's the only way you can do it. You can't. There's no realistic way you can tell people in the Javits Center to stay 6 feet apart, and all that stuff. So it's going to be nearly impossible. I think it's one of those things that you have to do all or nothing, because if you can't, then first of all it'll be less fun. It's going to be impossible. So I think they should only do Comic Con if they can do it as Comic Con can be run. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing that should be said about that. Because I mean, how do you tell? Listen, just getting into the Javits Center is already a chore. You're already going. You're already on top of people when you're going through the metal detectors and all that stuff. So there is no realistic way. I think that they can do that.
So do I. Jesus Christ. I remember the last 3 years trying to get in there. Everybody and their mama is there practically from the night before. Like, there's people that legit sleep on the street. And we're not talking about houseless people, folks. We are talking about people that come from all over the world. May they be mega rich or they somehow, some way scrapped money to be there. And we're talking more so the scrappers more than the rich, because the rich are the ones that are almost practically signing the autographs and whatnot. Man, I remember just arriving, I think at Jacob Javits one day, and seeing a line going, holy shit. Because it looked like it spanned for blocks. Like literally. And I'm saying to myself, oh man, I do not know how they do this every single year. Like some of these people are practically sleeping in bags, like sleep bags, and then somehow, some way, they got a spot. Matter of fact, I was watching Saved by the Bell. I think what was it, last week or the week before that, and there was an episode where supposedly U2 was coming to Bayside for a concert, and the whole entire episode was practically you're on candy camera, unbeknownst to the actual cast. So they are practically sleeping in the mall just to get these tickets. Well, that's practically New York Comic Con and all these other sister programs of it. People are that dedicated. And that's what I loved about the culture to some degree or another. But I would criticize it in the sense that you're trying to weather the elements where it could be either very, very cold or it could be very, very hot. And God bless anybody that has the nuts to do that shit. I couldn't do it. Oh man, I just could not. Especially at nighttime. Being a person that goes to sleep kind of early, and at points in time has to get up and go do his business, and then go back to sleep. I don't know how I would survive. Seriously. So I don't take it for granted. Now back to this epidemic thing, I agree wholeheartedly. It's either all or nothing. Because at this point, you practically got people all over each other anyway. So what's the point of that social distancing thing? Yeah, sure, I can see it from the standpoint of okay, say that this coronavirus, yeah, is still a thing at that point in time. You don't want people to be sick or whatever. Okay, I can respect that. But like you said, yeah, the whole entire point of Comic Con is kind of that nut hug feel because you don't get that style of reception in everyday life. You more so get it whenever stuff like that comes into town. So it's all or nothing. It's all or nothing at this point.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Wholehearted. I agree. I will not dispute that for 1 second. Okay, I think you hit upon the non-sports combats fun. As a matter of fact, next time that we bring you on, I think you'll actually go a little bit further. All right, Andy. So we're getting ready to wrap this bad boy up. What can I do for you going forward, pal?
What can you do for me? Let's see. I mean, hey man, just keep in contact. We would love to have you on for whenever another blood sports show happens. I don't know if you have any interest in watching Rizin. If you ever do,
Oh, after this, I'm definitely going to try and see if I can get into Rising because of that lovely lady. And plus, everything that you were telling me, like how it's an underground, better version of UFC. Why not?
Actually, if you want to even see a bunch of their fights, they've uploaded a number of fights for free on the official Ryzen YouTube channel, and you can watch a number of them that way. They don't have commentary though. So if you're somebody who must have commentary, then sorry, but if you go through YouTube, you can actually see you can get to see a bunch of them. You get to sift through some parts of YouTube. I guess I'll say the Japanese part of YouTube to find them. But yeah, we will. Yeah, if you find yourself that you like it, then yeah, by all means, we'll definitely have you for a Ryzen show. But definitely if you do anything pro wrestling or wrestling related, I think right, you're probably our number one guy to go to. Uh, I
Thanks.
know we have some other fans that are in. Well, I know Joseph Matos, who we had talk about Ryzen and then also the Fire Pro Wrestling game for PS4. We talked to him with that, but he's only into really New Japan. I don't know if he's into Bloodsport though. But as somebody with a very much diversified taste in wrestling, as yourself, you're definitely like the our go-to guy when it comes to understanding pro wrestling as a sport, art, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And that's why, yeah, we definitely want to have you on for Bloodsport in the future.
Thank you very much. I very much accept your offer. Should they truly make this thing happen in January? That's the rumor, ladies and gentlemen, and those who are concerned about Bloodsport. The rumor right now is January to make up for March, but I'm not really going crazy. I will believe it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody should take heed of that. But anyways, all right. So that's basically it. Just one more thing. Uh, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future? Oh, Jesus, where do we start with that? I hope this pandemic ends. That's the thing I hope. I want to go back to my regularly scheduled program for wrestle, not even just for wrestling. Just want to go back to work. I want to go to a gym. I want to practice jujitsu again. I want to stop waking up every day in my bed doing. And it's not that I'm doing nothing, but it's just I'm so tired of wearing a mask. I'm so tired of everything at this point. This feels like a bad. This feels like a simulation gone bad, and I want things to go back pre-March, whatever it was. It seems so long ago that like things were quote normal. Other things as well. Police stop beating the shit out of everybody. Be nice to each other. Um, let's see. Oh, and also pro wrestlers stop sexually abusing, grooming people. Just in general, just people don't do that. But pro wrestlers, you seem to have a very, very bad history of that. Stop doing that shit, please.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Oh boy, Jesus Christ! Every single day seems to be a new piece of shit going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Either the police is beating the living hell out of somebody, some pro wrestler is sodomizing another human being on the planet or whatever. And people wonder why I don't talk about pro wrestling heavy as I used to. Oh boy.
I don't blame you, dog. I don't blame you.
Jesus Christ. And it's not that I don't care about being a pro wrestling fan, because God knows I'm passionate about it to some degrees or another. It's the stupid shit that goes on in this community. And it's not with the fans completely. Some of these wrestlers, some of them are like themselves.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. A lot of the fans and a lot of the wrestlers. Then again, if you go into a sport where your whole thing, basically your whole thing is you gotta fall down on your back and neck, for money. I wouldn't be surprised like if that attracts a certain type of mentally unstable person.
Uh-huh. I agree. All right, Andy. Well, if anybody would like to contact you and our dear friend, one J Christian Gary, where can they get you guys?
Oh, okay. So first of all, thank you again so much, Zach, for having me on your podcast. That's what I also hope is that I hope I could be on your show again someday. Um, you can listen to We Are Rising podcast. You can on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at We Are Rising Pod. If you want to send us an email as well, you can do it at We Are Rising Podcast at gmail.com. For my personal Twitter page, which is basically just wrestling stuff and me arguing with people, which I do not. I try to not do that on the We Are Rising podcast channel, Twitter, but I sometimes do it because I forget I'm logged onto that. But for my personal, it's at a Benja1. For J. Christian Gary, he is at Chris Gary 92, my co-host, and he also writes for the website Focus Fights, which is at Focus Fights. And I also do some MMA writing for the website MMAsucker.com. And I'll actually be having an article coming out talking about the 5 best Rizin videos matches that you can watch on their YouTube channel, which will hopefully come out by the end of this week. I'm hoping to have it finished.
Ooh, and that will keep me actually occupied because God knows when Zachary Shiloh is not actually watching any pro wrestling or anything that makes me happy that's non-combat sports, I'm always looking for brand new stuff to watch. So
Mm-hmm.
that will be definitely in my radar. Speaking of which, thank you so much, Gary. I mean, Andy. Oh, shit. Now I got you confused with Christian. But anyway, moving on. Back to the outro, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Andy of We Are Rising Podcast. We shall keep in touch. Definitely. For anybody out there that's listening to me for the first time, my name is Zachary Shiloh. I am the proud host of this show called Black Lions Airspace, which has now been on over a year. You can email me at zacshi130 at gmail.com, regardless of if you use or do not use social media. Speaking of my social medias, I am capital B, capital L, capital K, Lion130 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, respectively. You can listen to this crazy show by multiple means of Stitches, Spotify, Anchor, and so many others. Well, if you find one on one of those networks, they should take you to other means. Also, you can get it all together out of my link tree. With that also said, please subscribe to my YouTube page where we actually do show live versions of these talks if people are wanting to come on cam with me. What else? Well, there's only one thing left to say. Beyond thank you very much. There is one goal, one aim, one road, one focus, especially in this nasty hodgepodge time that hopefully is really starting to wind down. That thing is called love. We definitely need more of that going forward. That's basically it. Especially from the standpoint of cops beating the living hell out of us or pro wrestlers trying to sodomize fans or themselves or whatever. As long as we got a sense of love for ourselves, our friends, and our families, we should be fine, I think. I believe that wholeheartedly. Well, one more time, thank you all so much for your love and support. And if you're brand new to this, I hope that I've won you somehow, some way. Please take care of yourselves, your friends, and your families because we pretty much have each other. And the fact that we're all living is a sign that there is some love. And if you don't have it on a romantic level, I hope you have it for yourselves and those around you. Take care of yourselves. I love you all. Thanks again. Take care. Bye. Okay. All right, Andy. We're good to go.
Ah, great. I was